Welcome back to Equal Time Soccer. I'm Mark Privratsky, and we're here because this week summer leagues are officially going to Minnesota. Every single one is going. So I'm here with Dani Foxhoven to do a Minnesota Aurora show. Dani, how are you?
I am great. So excited to be here. The week is finally here.
Yeah, there's a lot of games going on. A couple of teams trickled in last weekend in the WPSL, and then also Rochester FC did sneak in their first game in the W League. I want to highlight for folks among all the Equal Time coverage this summer, we cover all the teams in Minnesota and the corresponding area. There are a couple games this week you should really check out. Salvo SC, last year's WPSL champion, with a ton of heavy hitters. Aurora scheduled them to start the preseason. They host Sioux Falls City at home, and that's in Roseville at Northwestern. You could bike over if you're in St. Paul. You could watch a stream. So check that out. And the UPSL this Sunday, May 25th, May 28th at 5 p.m. Aurora FC host Superior City, both the teams in their first year in Summer League Soccer. Superior City winning the first matchup 2-0 a couple weeks ago. So they'll get some revenge. Check that out. You can get a stream on the Aurora FC YouTube. So a little shout to all the soccer going on. But Dani, I got to talk to you personally because we mentioned this in the preseason show. You are getting to be the color commentator for Aurora. Have to be. It might feel more like a job than a prize right now before the first game. But talk about your preparations to call the game today.
Yeah, I am. I'm so excited. I'm trying to get my voice ready. I'm like, me, trying to hone it in and get it ready. But
Find
yeah,
your tone.
yeah, exactly. But no, I'm excited. I'm really excited. There's already a ton of good soccer happening this summer. So I'm really thrilled to see the attention that's around the league, the attention that's coming like countrywide.
Yeah.
People have been coming out in droves to watch women's soccer this year, and I am just thrilled to see it. So yeah, I'm super excited.
What has your prep been like to be ready for the game? So, I mean, last year you would do pre-games with us and you would attend, but I'm sure it's a lot more intensive now. Like, can you give a sense for people what it takes to kind of get into this job?
Oh man, I mean, it's just so much research, right? Like I'm trying to catch up with who are the new players, who are the new faces, who are the new teams, who are the new logos we're gonna
Yeah.
see, who's returning from last year. I think last year it was like catch up for everybody. Everybody was trying
Uh-huh.
to everything was new. So this year it's a lot more like where are the returning faces? How are we building? What is this going to look like for the second year, including like what does the league look like for a second year? There's been some huge announcements this summer already with like the USL Super League and things like that. So I think all of this is starting to shape up, and it's shaping up in ways that not even we knew it was going to.
Yeah.
So I think in that way it's been like I'm just trying to catch up with everything.
Uh-huh.
I'm
It's,
trying to stay on top of it, and just trying to like keep everything straight. But there's a lot going on, and honestly it's exciting.
yeah, a lot of teams. It is wild to think that just from the year since W League came back, how different things are in terms of them announcing Pro League, then saying they're going to go try to go D1. So that's a whole other podcast to talk about that. But and the fact that Aurora's on the footing it is, and the teams joining the W League. We mentioned this a bit, but there's some really big programs on the West Coast that have joined the W League, two different divisions out there, and then continue to grow in every area. Like Indy 11 and Racing Louisville and
Yeah.
Tormenta, all those big teams from last year are just going to keep doing it. And some of the teams are putting up big scores too. I don't know if you've seen that, like 8-0s and wild stuff.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be really interesting to see this year personally, because I do think that there are some teams who are still treating this as like in the previous
Mm-hmm.
USL W leagues that, it was really like a
Mm-hmm.
college season, your summer training session. There was some players who maybe played up from like the leagues that were really good. But there is now, I think, a movement of players who are trying to play professionally in the NWSL, maybe didn't get a roster spot yet, were kind of like filling in when national team players were out and things like that, or
Mm-hmm.
wanted to play here in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming to teams that are getting this attention, which is a pretty big gap in just experience,
Yeah.
amount of tenure under your belt, just being able to play at a higher level. So I think that it's going to be something, unfortunately, that we see a lot this season, just because the league is
fractured
adjusting
that
into
way.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some teams where it's just a matter of what the purpose of the club is, right? For a lot of them, they're a club overall. This is one piece of that club, versus teams like Aurora, Green Bay, some of the other, like even Oakland Soul. It started as a pro team, a men's pro team, and it's a women's pro team first, above being a youth academy. So like you said, you get that difference in what the goals mean on the field, because then you see,
Totally.
yeah. And also, early in the season, it's very tough with fractured rosters. So maybe you see things level out a bit, but I'm sure we'll continue to watch. I wonder for you, you're kind of like coming in, this is maybe as close to you coached after you played, you did some color, but I'm wondering if this is the closest you've had to kind of feeling like a player again, because it's like a game's today and you're kind of in it. Is it same type of adrenaline? I'm sure it's not the same level.
No, I wouldn't say it's the same type of adrenaline. Even as coaching, I felt way more like coaching is so close to playing. Your
Uh-huh.
eyes are still trained to
Mm-hmm.
to like the minutia,
Mm-hmm.
your like emotion is feeling the momentum swings and the way that players play and the creativity, and you're just like so in that at level field. So
Yeah.
that's different, I think. So I think coaching will, but I was gonna say I think coaching probably is a little closer, but then I just caught myself because this is gay. I haven't done it yet
We'll
on
see
this
tomorrow.
level with
We'll
Aurora.
see
Yeah,
today,
so
tonight.
ask me again next week.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm sure it will be. That is the thing, and we see it when we interview players, because to be honest, most of them are extremely well spoken, give us good insights into things, but they'll admit to us that they're really quite nervous about it because it's not their wheelhouse. They know playing the game. So, well, you've done color, it's been a while, and so
Yes,
it's just specific mechanics, of like the
it
structure
is.
of the broadcast, and
Yeah.
you'll get used to it. But that's the nice thing, you're doing color. Jake better do all the hard work, and then Danny just comes in with the wisdom. That's what I try to do.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Talk about, so we said, you did spend time, you've been able to probably talk to Coach Lukic a little bit, but you've also been, a little bit to the training. Just what in overall impressions of the team, seeing new players, knowing that they have a game today, what have your impressions been of the squad for 2023?
Man, I think the squad is extremely deep. Like, we have some talent coming in from all over. I think the returning players have a lot of pressure on them. And because these new players are trying to win their spot, which makes it for a really, really competitive environment. And I mean competitive in like the best way. I think
Yeah.
everybody is playing lights out right now, because everybody's trying to prove, like, I want to be a part of the starting 11. I want to be one of these mainstay, at least on the 18 roster, which after talking to Coach Lukic, she was saying, this has been so hard to pick the 18 to be rostered
Yeah.
because of how everybody's played. So
Mhm.
so I think that is going to be really, really fun to watch. Having said that, you can tell everybody's energy is just like sky high right now
Yeah.
because of that. Everybody's playing like, almost to a point where that is not a sustainable amount of energy to be expended.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
finding that balance, I think, is going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
But that's an exciting challenge. It would be hard to go the other direction. Let's say that.
Yeah, and that's what you would hope they'd lean on, the positive team culture. It does seem like, from talking to players at open training a couple of times, it does seem like they're at least taking it they're trying to take it in the positive mental space, even though they admit it is a challenge, because you may not get the minutes you got last year, but also they want to get better and they expect to train at a pro level against equal talent. So it sounds like they're taking it in stride. By the way, something they added this year is a mental skills coach. I
Yes.
talked to Olivia Groutman, one of the people competing for a keeper spot, and she gave a really thoughtful insight, both interviewing her and then a little bit after, just asking about what's it like being in the 4 kind of person competition for that. And she just referenced, her experience in college as well, and that the mental skills coach here has been helpful in terms of thinking of what you can control. And if you aren't picked, you can't say, that was because of you. A coach has to make a decision as well. And so you can
For
only
sure.
control. So it was cool to see another piece of something that is provided to the players? Because that will be an added level of challenge this year to deal with that mental challenge.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the roster, like we were saying, not just the roster, but like the extended roster, right? All of the girls that are here are so talented and everybody's trying to vie for that spot. So it makes it really difficult for the girls that don't make that to keep up their mental attitude, to keep up the spirits, and to keep coming back day in and day out to with that same amount of like tenacity.
Yep.
Goalkeeping specifically brings it
Yeah.
to a completely different level because, you know, it's almost rare for a keeper to be switched at any point in any game, but also like at any point in the season.
In a
Like that's very,
season.
very rare.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think that just speaks to the level of professionalism of Minnesota Aurora and the to me, I think that that says we are investing in the health of our players overall. And we see this not just as like a 10-week season, but as like a long, you know, this is the future of where we want our program to go. And we want players to feel really taken care of here. And regardless of whether they see the field or not, feel like they added to this program, which I think, I mean, hats off.
Yeah. Yeah. Positive mindset for sure. And I appreciated hearing that because it's not easy. It's personal. These people want to make a career out of this, you know, like
Yes.
it's their career they're thinking about too. So it is serious. I'm wondering, I appreciate, you know, the fact that you've gotten able to probably talk to Coach Lukic a little more in order to prepare for the new role. Obviously, Coach, we're not spreading any tactics, we're not doing any leaks, but I want to know from you, don't worry. Okay. But I want to ask you, Dani, in terms of you being someone who's spent so much time in the game and obviously you followed last year, but now talking to her a bit more and getting a little bit more insight at, you know, behind the scenes, what do you, we saw what made her special, building culture, obviously, you know, mixing talent and winning, but just for you personally, who knows the game at a really deep level, what could you share of like what makes her staff special or what makes her special and successful?
Yeah. This is a question I'm going to admit I think I am biased towards. I'm biased in this answer because I grew up playing for the Colorado Rush, and Nicole coaches also for the Minnesota Rush now. And there is a mentality within the Rush, the way that I grew up playing, which is very like fluid. It's very creative. It is very like we want to encourage our players to be the best that they can be in themselves. Like we're not trying to tamp this down and change the way that any of these players play. In other words, like we want them to express themselves a little bit more of like a Brazilian style, if you will, where it's like we want to be free, we want to be creative, we want to get forward, we want to score goals, we want to have fun with it.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think Nicole, Coach Lukic, embraces wholeheartedly. And I will say, like, I think that I feel passionately about that because I grew up playing very similar style. But I love to see that at this level. I don't think that there's a ton of coaches that want to do that. It's a lot of times you'll see coaches who want to, you know, make it like we're organized, we're solid defensively, then we, you know, play and we go from there. And she's almost the opposite. It's like we want to start with let's go at them. Let's put them on, you know, on their heels, and then we'll adjust from there. So I think that's something that is beautiful in the way that she wants them to play, in the mentality of the team. I think that's going to lend to a lot more fun celebrations and fun goals and things that we got to see. And, you know, I think that does lend to some mistakes that could happen and goals that can be you know, sort of countered, but I think that's part of it. And so I think that that's what makes her different, honestly. And I think that's really cool to see.
Yeah, you see, I mean, it with the celebrations, with the way they play. I mean, and with you would see players interchanging, and you see that. Yeah, clearly there's an ethos there, and it's also it. You would say a player's coach in the simple term of it, and it obviously makes, besides all the other reasons a player wants to play for Aurora, you know that makes a difference because you know she has conversations with them about what they want to do. And you know, we heard from like Morgan French on the last show, she reached out, she wanted to be a part of it, she saw something that was positive for her as a player trying to stay in the pro game, right? Let's talk about the defenders a bit. I think I'm just going to make the assumption, but we have returners at outside back that I would maybe expect to start. Maybe they won't, but I want to focus on the center backs because Kelsey Steed, who was Kelsey Kalfusi, both her and Abby got married during the last year. Congrats.
Yes.
Congrats on the marriages.
Yes.
To the players from Utah. And so we'll keep saying both to help fans transition, but Kelsey Steed Kalfusi, she just had a little tweak on her hamstring. We talked to her at training and it seems like she was still doing work. It's probably in the short term, but in a lot of the scrimmages in the open time, I've seen T. Harris and Kennedy Faulkner, two really new, highly talented center defenders playing in the middle.
Yeah.
I might guess they might look to be starters in the back, given that Kelsey won't be able to go in the opener today.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that. And I think Tiana specifically has been a player who's been like standout so far. I feel like she's you could tell just by the way that she carries herself, by her level of communication on the field, that she's definitely a player who is controlling a lot of the game that's happening in front of her. And you definitely need that kind of a voice from the back line specifically. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see her by any means. And yes, I know the injuries, I mean, at this early on in the season, I wouldn't be surprised if Coach Lukic is a little bit more conservative in playing any players that have something pop up even a little bit, because this is day one. And although those players want to get on the field, like there's a lot more to think about than just home opener. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of reservation from some players for sure.
Mm-hmm. The keeper battle is one that's interesting too. Talking to Olivia, people could go watch our stuff on Insta or Twitter for those interviews we had earlier this week. But Olivia seemed to really communicate that like the last year, when each of them would get their bit chance, when Sarah would get sub for Sarah, they were all really happy for each other. Part of that was Coach Lukic would always communicate to them clearly their role, which she, not every coach always does that, in terms of like maybe they give the lineup right for the game and flip a whiteboard, and she just mentioned that it's something that Nicole has done, communicates it, lets the roles be known. So I'm guessing whoever is starting today knew, yesterday. But what did you have any, insight from talking to her about, the competition there? It seemed fairly open to me in terms of, I couldn't have handicapped it. I might have guessed Taylor Kane because she played the most minutes, but really it could be any of the four.
It could be at this point. And in talking with Coach Lukic, it's been a real battle back there. It sounds like there might be an injury as well, but I'm not going to give that up. So I think it'll be interesting to see who does come out. I also wouldn't be surprised if there is an injury involved, that we see maybe a goalie change like a couple games from now, which I think will be really interesting. I do know that Coach Lukic said that, like I said before, this season, like rostering 18 players has been one of the most difficult decisions for her. So I can imagine like choosing one of four goalies, it was a huge part of that. And I think, or I guess two at this point for one on the bench, but I think that probably was a really, really tough decision. So I think right now it seems, she didn't really give us much. It just seems like it's really up in the air still. And that role will be filled, I think, based on performances the week before. I do know, though, in terms of her sort of mentality, she is wanting a goalie that can also be a part of the field, right? That is really used as an 11th player. And not just as a goalie alone. So I think that she will be looking for and asking a lot of the goalies this season.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that she was willing to, when games were, whether we got a comfortable lead, she was really willing to do a bit of rotation, and I'm sure with the intent of making sure players got some exposure and then would be ready for a next opportunity. So wouldn't be surprising if they're having success like they did last year, that she does do a bit of that, and maybe, even more, having four keepers around. Did you ever, I wanted to ask you this because Olivia Groutman mentioned this just in chatting after interviewing, like that you just know as a keeper that, like you said, a coach just has to make a choice at some point, and really they for consistency's sake, the basic thinking is you want to keep consistent with a keeper. So it's not as if they think someone's so much better or whatever, but they make a choice and keep it. I wondered, and it made me think for whatever reason, like you as a striker, did you ever think about how, like, if you had your best day and scored 2 goals and had an assist, you might have tanked someone's season, like they got benched, and then the whole season that keeper was like now second string.
I do think about that a lot. However, in saying that, there is often times where when a keeper is playing a forward who's like on fire, a lot of times what coaches are looking at is not like the saves that are being made,
Right.
but the parts that they are like the decisions that they are making, which
Totally.
is really hard to the untrained eye to see like what the goalie is doing and the decisions they're making. But like, even do I come out at this time or do I hold my line? Do I come off to punch it? Do I how am I communicating with my back line? What decisions am I making in terms of like playing out of the back, or do I want to, clear this, punt it, get the ball forward? I think those decisions are all a huge part of goalkeeping. And so needless to say, when I was on my best day and scored 3 goals, I think that there was still a lot that that keeper was doing that was probably right and didn't lead to a save.
Let's hope the coach had that type of that insight you had, Dani. Quick break to read an ad from our sponsor. This show is brought to you by Pentz Homes. Whether you're buying or selling, or if you're looking to do some projects in your current home, Nate and Lydia can help you find what you need. Need financing for a basement remodel? Looking at a second bath or a workspace now that you're working from home? Pentz Homes and their preferred lender, Angie Shearer with Luminate Financing, can help find the right financing tool for you. Go to pentzhomes.com to learn more, or find them on social media at Pentz Homes. Little tidbit, I don't even know if Dani knows, but there might be that. Well, there is. I mean, some gear coming with Pentz. There might be an equal time jersey.
Oh. Pentz, people.
Pentz. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the ad read support. Dani's a professional media employee now. So let's talk about the attack a little bit. There's some pieces returning where we know they'll play roles. Maya Hansen played a lot. You could assume she'll definitely, if not start, she's going to play major minutes up top, because it was really her and Morgan Turner playing up top. Morgan now, you just scored a goal in Portugal the other week, bigging up for repping Aurora over there. But other returners who played kind of on the wing or striker, Kat Rapp, Rami played on the outside as well. Mariah Wynn played on the wing a lot. Christelle would sub in as more of an actual 9, sometimes on the wing. But then we have a bunch of newcomers who might play there as well. Hannah Adler, Sophie French has played in the middle, but has played on the wing in the scrimmages too. Vienna Benke, Brenlin Mulaney, Caitlin McBean. There's a lot of players, Dani.
There is. Like we said, it's going to be so hard for her to choose. I think that we'll probably see some formation shifts here as well because of those players and what their strengths are. So I do think we'll maybe see something that looks a little different just in on flat paper.
Yeah. And and to remind people the uniqueness of this, every, college soccer is different than summer leagues. I bet we got AO in the house, maybe.
We do.
We got
an appearance, bud.
He's the star. He's the
Hi,
star.
Everybody.
Ayo. Hey, bud.
He'll be running around in the back, so I apologize for if we hear anything. But
yeah. He's pumped about. He's saying summer league.
Yeah.
He's saying we're teal. That's what AO's saying. Love it. AO's the real star. Yeah, Dani and I, don't forget, talked him to sleep because he was so bored listening to us talk about soccer last summer.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's I'm sure we'll see rotations, and I'm sure we'll see there's 7. What I was saying before our cameo was there's 7 subs teams can make. So different from college in terms of like college, you can sub as much as you want. WPSL is different as well. So in the W League, you get 7 subs, which is still plenty to use your 18, but it isn't, you cannot rotate the way that summer league teams do in the WPSL or others. In the middle of the midfield, maybe a place that's a little more defined. I don't know if she would make changes to this partnership, but it was really Addie Simmons and Morgan Stone. Addie Simmons is now Addie Wykers, I believe. Congrats to her again on wedding day. But they played a ton. They kind of held it down, some rotation in kind of the base of that 4-2-3-1-ish, formation we play. Do you have any thoughts on that, or who might also squeak into that type of role?
Yeah, no, I think they'll be looking to Addie, honestly, for a lot of that for a
Yeah.
lot of the responsibility in the midfield, especially, like, on the defensive side of it. I think she did such a good job of, like, holding it down, and you can see just in preseason, she is the one that is controlling a lot of the tempo,
Uh-huh.
which I think very interesting coming from a holding mid position,
Hmm.
from that 6 really. A lot of times you think of that as somebody who's kind of functions as like a third center back, and
Yeah.
I think that she does a really good job of actually being more involved in the attack, but being the player that is like a little bit of a relief.
Hmm.
So when the play gets like they run in, they're trying to go forward and they run into an area that maybe they can't continue to keep going forward, they can come back, have their foot on the ball still, slow it down, and build from there. So
Hmm.
I think that we'll see a lot of that coming from her. I think I'm not sure if there will be much movement in that just based on my perceptions of watching
Yeah.
her play so far. Honestly, I think that she's been pretty good so far. So I'll be curious to see if there is changes there, but
Yeah.
that's just my initial perception.
Yeah. And the funny thing is for people, I mean, Addie plays center back in college, but she showed so much of that kind of midfield general type work. And so clearly, and we have the new defenders coming in, so it is not a need to try and put her back there. She just showed a lot in midfield
Yeah.
last year. Let's talk a little bit about Rochester FC, not to be confused with Rochester United FC, which is the WPSL team. So the Rochester United team, their crest has a lion. Rochester FC, they're the also loons. They have a gorgeous crest. They're the loons as well. And so that's a way to keep them apart. Some of their standouts, they had one game already. They have some standouts that we've had on the show, by the way, but Ana Ricardo Pacheco, who played at Texas Rio Grande. I think she played at Texas Corpus Christi before that, but she's someone who's looking to go pro. Lindsay Birch, we had on, she plays at Nebraska Omaha. And then
Yeah.
Lisa Mitsutani plays at St. Thomas. So it's a similar type of profile to Aurora's players, maybe a bit less now in the second year. They don't have the type of folks who are coming back from a pro season, for example. But a lot of people that the Minnesota players from Aurora probably know. I mean, so
Yeah.
for you, if you're putting your mind as like a Rochester player after the $1 million team Aurora get all this hype, what would you be going in with the mindset of like coming into TCO today?
Well, I mean, I think they're also coming off of a loss, so I think that their
1-0.
mentality.
Yep.
That's
To
right, to
Bavarians.
Bavarians. Yep. So I think that that's going to be another factor here because they're going to there's added pressure. This is probably for a lot of them the biggest fan, crowd that they've
Yeah.
ever played in front of.
Yeah.
This new environment, this team, Aurora coming off of the stellar season they had last year. I think all of those carry a lot of weight. So I definitely think they're probably going to have some big shoes to fill, and they're definitely going to have to come out with some extra oomph, if you will, after a loss. Like they have a lot to prove here, and I feel like they have an extra hurdle to get over.
Mm-hmm. One thing Matt noticed, Matt attended the game just to get a little insight into the squad, and he just mentioned kind of something that happened at times with other teams versus Aurora, but in terms of depth of rotation, a lot of players played 90, he noticed, and then they had played 90 in the scrimmage, 3 days before. And so that's something where there's certainly players from Aurora who play heavy minutes, but I think there were times where that depth just seemed to play a role, once it got into the second half, or whether it was like a day that was 100, and
For
there were
sure.
some killers last year. But so
Yes.
that's something with the depth, may pay off in terms of playing a first year team with less.
Oh,
Yeah.
I absolutely think it will. I mean, there's no doubt that Coach Lukic was very mindful about that. A bigger roster is always helpful. I'm always a believer of that because it not only in practice can let you play 11s, so
Yeah.
your players can get a lot. They can like sort a lot of that stuff out. But it also allows you to have, like you were mentioning, a deeper bench come late season.
Mhm.
If something happens, you have players that you can go to no matter what. So
Mhm.
I think that's really helpful, and I do think that will make a really big difference. Whether we see it on day one is not the important question here. It's what we see come the back half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And So I mean, we saw the depth this year. It'll be even more so. So I mean, we're gonna. But we saw what was really fun about last year's team was anyone found a moment. You know, like there was a PK late where you're like, Mayu's taking this. Why? Mayu has only played maybe 20 minutes. Killed it. Took the craziest PK I've ever seen in my life. And you know, people found moments. You know, where there's like Ari Del Moral subbing on. You know, Jelena Zavilic playing. You know, finding their moments. Christelle. So I mean, there's going to be chances, especially like. If they do well and they're trying to rotate going in, you know, for in terms of trying to look out for the college coaches, you know.
Yep, absolutely.
Look out for the college coaches. Dani, Autograph Alley was one of my favorite things last year. It was adorable. It was really cool. Boys, girls, adults, any kid going, you know, any person just geeked out at the players. Can people get your autograph after the game? You going down?
Oh my gosh. Heck yeah. Absolutely. I'd stick around. I didn't think people wanted it. I'm old washed up now, but yeah, absolutely.
There. Just wear, you know, we'll make you a T-shirt that has you and Rapinoe together. You know, we'll get you with all your, you know, and all the people who know you're a big dog. But
yeah, there you go.
I mean, I think you should go down. Look.
Listen, if people hit me up after this, I'll definitely make an appearance.
Do you have your ring? Do you have your ring?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Bring it and take a picture with the ring. Honestly, hey, I don't know. Yeah, there we go. I am curious though, because I'm excited for you, Dani. I'm excited to hear you on the call. And it also makes all these videos better because you're going to be way in deep on Aurora. How many like friends and family have told you they're going to watch? You know?
Oh man, yeah, I've tried to spread the word, so I'm trying to get it out there. But everybody's been very supportive. Even people back in Colorado and on the West Coast are like, "How can we tune in and watch?" So thankfully, I've been spreading the link. Thankfully,
it is easy. Yeah, that is an increase this year. I mean, it was already really an accessible thing in terms of just a nice stream, but unique to there's only a handful of teams, honestly. Detroit City, Sioux Falls City. I'm sure there's maybe some in other parts of the country I'm less familiar with that are on over-the-air TV that aren't NWSL teams. Just really cool. Fox 9 Plus, you can get on antenna. So, I mean, digital antenna, whatever. You can also, I'm sure if you have cable, you can find it, but then just the YouTube Fox 9 Plus page. So that's a nice thing. Simple for people to find.
Listen to my beautiful voice.
Get in there. And then Jake is the new play-by-play caller for the team. But yeah, Aurora, the game is starting soon. They play next, I will say, Saturday, May 27th at Chicago City. Matt will be on the ground in Chicago. It's a sicko, man. He's got nothing better to do. He's going to be in Chicago covering that for equal time as I bartend for the Minnesota United fans at the Blackheart because there's a home game on Saturday.
Go to Blackheart.
Absolutely. Yes. And I did want to mention one other very cool thing. We mentioned this, but just so people know, this is happening tomorrow. Paula Ten, who is a defender for Minnesota Aurora, she is representing the Dominican Republic national team at the CONCACAF under-20 qualifiers. I don't believe there's any way to access that in terms of video, but even yet again, the big dog, Matt, my brother, Matt Privratsky, will be in the Dominican Republic for the...
Is he really going?
Yes, he is, Dani. He is going. He will be there towards the end when it gets into the knockouts to try and cover. There is a Minnesotan Maddie Darlene, now honorary Minnesotan Paula Ten, also there. So he's going to see, we'll see what he's able to do down there.
I love it.
This I can say, there will not be a lot of media. So he definitely is, if there's anything to be had, you know, he's the one there. So I think he's been in touch with U.S. Soccer. Dani, we're excited. The game's kicking off just in a couple minutes. And good luck. Have a good first game.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.